Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about principal engineers. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, how do principal software engineers keep themselves going given that they don't have any more rungs in the ladder to climb? Well, hopefully usually what they do is either they go into management or they switch jobs or take on projects that are stimulating enough for them to find enjoyment from what they do. Uh, this is the thing that I've told people before, that there is this idea like you can't continuously increase your salary forever. There is a peak, and principal engineer, or like there might be something slightly higher than that if you're not gonna like run your own company, or if you're not going to take over the responsibility of running some other, like, you know, there are companies who are looking for talented people and so forth. You could maybe go one or two levels at tops higher than this, but for most people this is going to be as high as they're going to go without moving into a completely different sort of role. And this is sort of like it's the end station. Now it's really down to what do you want to do once you've reached quote unquote the peak of whatever company or like role that you have. I mean, as I said, you can switch companies, move to like some other like projects or so forth that are stimulating. That's sort of the level that I am in, where it's really down to what am I doing with my time, like what am I trying to fix, like you've reached sort of a point, like at least if we're, because I don't know if a principal engineer is as high as a staff engineer or something like that, but it's the same sort of deal for me, like where I've reached a point now where getting me higher up really means like, all right, now you have to stop coding and you have to simply do administrative work, etc., right? And so this is probably as high as I can go without leaving the coding. And the reality of that is that if I don't want to go into all management sort of work, it's still like I can't, it's not like I'm avoiding it. I still have a lot of responsibilities which involves planning and administrative work. But I still have to be involved at the code level currently, which I think is a very good spot for me to be at in this specific part of my career. And I've told my manager the same thing, like maybe in a few years I'll consider going into like only coaching people or only like doing that sort of stuff, but currently that's not for me, and so that leaves me with very little options in terms of going even higher up, if that makes sense. But the thing that I can do is pick my projects and so forth, and I'm lucky enough to be in this case in a company where they sort of basically allow me to work on things that I find to be interesting. But the same thing is true when I've looked for jobs in the past and so forth. It really comes down to what do you want to work on. I mean, I have an old coworker of mine who is like he's been working for like 20 years or something like that. He's like he is very, very good. He has tons of experience working with operations and so forth. So he's basically like he's a developer, but he also has a lot of experience doing DevOps, etc., etc. He quit his company after a few, like, what is it? Like he actually overshot it 5 years instead of 4, and said, yeah, no, actually I want to do blockchain stuff. Like, so he basically went to a different company because there was no way he's going to get more higher up the ladder at his current position. And I've done the same thing, where I went to a company where they needed someone to help out with stuff that I found interesting. And the fulfillment I got from fixing all those issues is, it's still there. So I think that it's still interesting to work there. But after a while, maybe you get bored, you want to try something else, and then either you move to a different project within the company if it's a big company, or you move to a different company. There's not much more that you can be doing. So well, keeping yourself going. I hope I've told you this once or twice before. I hope that you realize, guys, that if you don't like software development, it's not going to take you forever to get to, well, it depends on you, of course. I mean, I have some coworkers who've been working for or I know people who have been working for 10-20 years before they got to, well, some of them don't get to be principal engineers because like this is not their forte, or like it's not their passion. It's not like this is the thing that they're doing. I've been lucky in a sense because I got here in a very short amount of time, I would say, in comparison to a lot of the other people who are at the same level. But yeah, I mean, then I know people who got here faster than I did. So I mean, it's difficult to say. But sooner or later, you're going to get here as well. You're going to reach the peak of the thing. It's the same. It's no different than if even if you were to run your own company, it's the same problem. Like you're gonna sooner or later establish, like if you become the CEO or like the top honcho of a company, there is nothing more for you to, like you can't go upwards. So it's better for you to just look around and see what else could I be doing with my time, or like what do I find feel is enjoyable, etc., etc. Unless you know you're just going to try to increase your profits forever and ever, which you can do, of course, and so forth. But then what you're really asking me is not really how do you keep yourself going when you get to the top, because then there is no top. Because I think we can all agree that if you're gonna, what is it? It's the Elon Musk who is the richest guy around right now, right? If you're gonna beat him, you're probably gonna have some time to challenge yourself. And there's a lot of other very, very rich people that you could try to see if you can match their high score. So I promise you're never going to get to the top if the money is the only thing that you define as getting to the top. So what I want you to take away from this is that the way that most principal engineers are like very experienced, or we'll call them what you want, engineers who have reached sort of the highest point where you still are a software developer in a sense, what they usually do is that either they become managers, or they like basically go into administrative work or architecture or something like that, or they switch jobs, they find companies who work on things that they find interesting, etc., etc., or they just sort of take on roles or responsibilities like myself, where it's sort of down to you need to figure out very specific problems which are very difficult for the average company to figure out. And so I have friends who went, like my personal mentor went into management. He became a manager after working for 15 years or something like that. And now, like, that's what he does. I have coworkers who, as I said, like they switched, like they couldn't get higher in their company, so they switched to a different company and started doing blockchain stuff because they were really passionate about that stuff. And me, I'm sort of the dude who, like, I work in a very big company where basically they just tell me, we need you to fix this really like complicated thing. Like we have all these different systems, and we want to like build a new thing, something like this, but we can't like figure out how to do it. So can you put together a team, or like can you sort of task force this thing and make it happen? And I go, yeah, I can be your fixer. Like I fix these sorts of things usually, and these sorts of roles are like more. It's about having a very broad profile. You're basically going to have to be a full stack developer with like ops skills and like all of these different things, and be able to talk to people to do that sort of stuff. And that's what I think is enjoyable to me. And it might be different for you, but these are usually the cases that the people who got to the highest levels or can't really progress higher, that's usually what they do. Have a great day.